Hello and welcome, my yogi friends. My name is Tracy, and this week the informational video I'm going to bring is about the wide-legged stretch. What are we trying to get into, and how do we achieve the best results? So, wide angle seated stretch. First thing we really want to make sure is that we feel those sit bones grounding in. It doesn't matter whether your legs are just slightly apart or all the way out to the sides. It doesn't matter how big the slice of pie is. What we want to initiate with the width of our angle is a pleasant stretching sensation. Now, some things to check here. If you're in your wide angle and you notice that your back is rounding and you're feeling your sit bones kind of pointing more towards the front, a few things you can do. If you have a yoga block, you can raise up slightly off onto that yoga block. That can help tilt the pelvis. Sometimes the yoga block is a little too much, so having a nice blanket and just being able to lift up an inch or so can really give you what you need to help change that angle and allow you to have that straight back. A couple other things. If you're really feeling a lot of tension, stiffness in the legs, you can always bend the knees slightly. But it's really important to think about where you're feeling the stretch. So always keeping the feet flexed, because we're looking to get into that inner thigh muscle. Some of those muscles we're stretching actually come down past the knee joint. So we want to make sure that we're flexing the feet and protecting the knee joint by activating all of those stabilizer muscles so that we don't put unnecessary tension on the inside of the knee. So I'm going to go ahead and lift myself up onto a blanket, and I'm going to allow my legs to come out nice and wide. I have a pleasant stretching sensation. Flexing the feet. Another thing is rotate, so you can actually pull on the thighs and rotate so that the pinky toes start to reach behind. And again, feel the sit bones grounding, brace the core, and lift the chest. So coming to that side view again, I want to reiterate that we don't want to have a rounded back as we come over. If I do this, now I'm just stretching into the back. My goal is to get into the inner thigh. So I'm going to feel my nice, long, straight spine. My chest is lifted, and I'm going to hinge. So now my sit bones are going to start hinging out. I'm going to really flex, and I'm going to drop my belly button closer to the floor. And it doesn't matter whether I can make it to the floor or not. It's all about engaging in the stretch. So, remembering that our chest stays lifted, and we just hinge forward until we get that stretching sensation that's challenging, but you can still hold a smooth breath. Seeing how long you can make the breath, you can keep this into a nice meditative breathing posture, just watching the sensation of the stretches. When you start to feel a little kind of aching or the tension beginning to build in that inner knee joint, that's a good time to roll out of it, support the knees as you come out. Now taking it into a passive stretch. I love, if you have a wall, I love some of the restorative poses and passive poses. Legs up the wall, great pose. So just come down up against the wall, roll onto your back, and let your feet come straight up. So for some people, this may actually feel a little pressure or tension in the lower back, and if it does, feel free to grab your blanket and give a little lift, because you want to feel that sacrum and the hips softening into the ground. Once you're here, you can hang out in legs up the wall and just focus on letting the upper body sink into the floor. This helps get the lymph moving through the body. We're usually in that upright position, so allowing the lymph, which moves through drainage and gravity, to just have a different angle to flow. And now we're going to take it into our wide angle. So just letting the legs come apart. Remembering to flex into the feet if you're feeling any tension into the knees. And if you feel like this is pulling a little too much, you can always use a block or anything that you have available to just let the legs soften into it. I like being able to use my blocks in all its different heights. Once you feel a good stretching sensation, stay with the breath. And when the sensation starts to soften, you can start moving the hips around, tilting the pelvis back and forth, and re-engaging into those muscles. Feel free to stay in that pose as long as your knees feel safe and you're feeling the benefit of the stretch. I usually like to come back into a more folded pose, feet together, Baddha Konasana. So this is bound wide angle pose, and coming down into that stretch. A couple of different muscles that get activated in this one, but we're still keeping that same lifted chest and straight, long spine. All right, I hope you all enjoyed that information. I hope it works well. I hope you feel the stretch and enjoy exploring the breath and the body. I'll see you next week.